Will you be turned away the next time you go to board a cruise? Well, it seems to be something that might be happening more and more often in the future, something we have to be aware of. And the worst offenders so far in 2023 seem to be Royal Caribbean and Norwegian Cruise Lines.
My name is Stuart, this is Ship to Shore Cruise News. Let's get into it.
Recently, the Quantum of the Seas left port, leaving 11 groups, 11 bookings on board on the shore. They were not able to get cabins for these people who had paid in full up front. These people arrived at the port. Actually, there was more, but they found cabins for some of these people, but they showed up at the port, were looking for their guaranteed cabin, and they were handed a letter by Royal Caribbean saying that there was no space available for them. This is something I'm sure you've heard about and read about and watched a lot of videos about, so I'm not going to go into too much details other than to say that the common denominator between all these people was that they had all booked guaranteed cabins. The problem with guaranteed cabins is that the systems don't seem to be able to compensate for making sure that there's enough room for these cabins, and they're letting more and more people book the cabin room numbers ahead of time, and as I just said, they're not compensating for the number of people who have no cruise cabin number assigned. 2023 has been a record-breaking year in the cruising industry. The cruise industry has not seen numbers like this since 2019, and 2019 was a record year. There's so much demand nowadays that the cruise line is actually letting people book right up to the last minute to take advantage of anybody who's going to cancel right at the last minute. This is causing some problems with overbooking that we're seeing more and more all the time on different cruise lines. With the Quantum of the Seas out of Australia, I do have to say that Royal Caribbean did make some very good offers to these people. But if you're traveling a long distance and you're there at the cruise port waiting to get on and you find out you can't get on that ship right there, I don't know what I would think. I'd probably lose it. I don't know what I would do, especially if this is a family vacation. I would just lose it. And I don't know how much of compensation would make it right, especially if I had to fly to the destination and spend money on a hotel room as well. As I was saying, 2023 is just a bountiful year when it comes to the cruise line and people booking cabins and so on. And what I've noticed over the last year too is that prices have gone up on everything. Packages, perks, and fares have been going up and up and up over the last year. And some people might be saying that, hey, these cruise lines are getting a little too greedy, especially when they're allowing so many people to overbook. That might be one of the reasons. I would like to think that perhaps the cruise lines are trying to make a little bit more profit to pay down the massive debt that they incurred while they were all out of service during 2020. Hopefully, when they can pay down these debts, they can start reducing some fare prices. I'd like to see that. If it is truly for profits, well, that's sad to see. They're just trying to make things look good for their stockholders. I hope it's not because someone wants a big bonus, and I just hope it's to pay off their debt that they incurred during those hard times. So when we talk about cruise lines that are being canceled, I'd like to say that in April of this year, people who were sailing with Celebrity Millennium in the fall were being asked to cancel their cruise because that ship and that sailing had been oversold. And they were trying to find a way out by asking people and offering incentives for people to cancel that cruise. Royal Caribbean also had that problem where they identified it ahead of time that they had oversold another cruise as well. In May of 2023, a letter went out to people who had booked on the Allure of the Seas over several cruises, over several departure dates, that those cruises had been overbooked. It's great that Royal Caribbean identified those cruises at that time and sent out letters to people with incentives on changing their cruise, canceling their cruise, and so on. It's great that they can identify it ahead of time, but it could possibly be that they might not be identified until the day of the sailing. Now, how can you protect yourself? Well, first of all, I'm just going to say you should go to your travel agent and choose a room when you book your cruise. If you choose your room, you've got the number, you're locked in, there shouldn't be any problem. If you buy travel insurance, which I do recommend, make sure you read the fine print. A lot of times these insurances will cover trip cancellation when you decide to cancel a trip, but you need to check the wording to see if it will cover you if the provider cancels the trip from the other end. That's the most important part. Now, if you do receive a letter or notification from the cruise line that your cruise is being canceled or your booking is being canceled, they'll make you an offer. At that point, work with your travel agent to see if perhaps they can sweeten the deal for you. Travel agencies do have a lot more power than a single consumer, and I would suggest working with them to see if you can get anything else to sweeten the pot, so to speak. And as always, when we talk about cruising, there's three really important things that you always have to remember. And that's, my name's Stuart, this is Ship to Shore Cruise News, and as always, get your cruise on.